Blaster, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn and a lowest downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down, low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, 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 go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final, you're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold, take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final, runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Oh, we have one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger, let's see, what we got, a tricycle, put it down, tricycle, put it down, tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you cleared land on 9, all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway and I might have to just send you around, that'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. You do not descend. Do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. You can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. Clear to land on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow out follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in sight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, here on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around.
Yeah, I can follow.
Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that. After 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. Put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Four, three, two, one.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. And the eagle-eyed amongst you would have spotted that Johnny is not here. Instead of Johnny, we have the one, the only, Mr. Mike Ling, the inspiration for my haircut. Absolutely top chap who's agreed to step. He's our guest tonight, so we're going to interview him later. But he's agreed to step in and have a go at the old presenting job. So, Mike, take it up. No, I'm joking. First thing, what have I done wrong already? I need that little thing there. Oh, that's too bad. Right, first things first, thank you very much. As we come to the end of 2023, this is our last live stream of 23. I have to say very big thank you to Sky Demon for supporting us throughout this year and again into next year. So here is tonight's brand new Sky Demon tip.
Good evening.
No.
That's Simon.
That's Simon. That's the weather. You got that to come. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Tim from SkyDemon. Welcome to this week's top tip. In the latest version of SkyDemon, you can now customize the trail left behind by your aircraft on the map while you're flying. We've added the options under Setup, Navigation Options, then Aircraft Size and Colors. You can choose between having a trail of breadcrumbs, like this, or a solid line, like this. If you scroll down a little, you'll see that you can also change the colour. I might like a bright blue line, or some brown coloured breadcrumbs. You'll see your new trail the next time you go flying. For our full user manual, go to skydemon.aero and choose Help and Support.
Not sure anyone wants brown breadcrumbs.
No, that one caught me out. I went flying on Sunday and I thought my Sky Demon was broken because it's like all of a sudden I've got this unusual looking breadcrumb trail.
Give you little dot says the GPS signal went in there.
Yeah.
Mike, in your 10 seasons with the Red Arrows, when you navigate around the country, have you got is the lead sitting there with like the GPS and Sky Demon or something on it, or are you doing it with all that funny maps and things like that?
When I first started flying the Hawk before the Red Arrows, so that was in 2000, we didn't have any form of GPS at all. We had a TACAN. The jet didn't even have a VOR; it just had a TACAN and ILS. So we had a VOR, and on our knee board we had sort of a map with various TACANs with range rings, and then you would work out based on switching between TACAN channels where you were on the radial and bearing from each one and work out where you were. And then when I joined the Reds, they had a modification where they had I think it's called a Sky Map 2, Bendix King Sky Map 2. So green screen, Game Boy-esque graphics, which showed you pretty much coastlines and airfields. So it was pretty useless for accurate navigation. But what it did have was a very good time on target function. So you could plan a route and then tell it you want to be over Buckingham Palace at 13:01 and 44 seconds. And it would tell you how early or late you were and a demanded ground speed. So that was very useful. Much easier than a TACAN and flying at 420 knots using a map and stopwatch, that's for sure.
I feel like a Sky Demon flight plan coming up where I fly over Buckingham Palace.
Good luck with that.
Maybe one time.
I'm going to be prosecuted, but I got there within 2 minutes of my time on target. which for us would be like ridiculously accurate, clearly.
That's air defense timing, that is.
Yeah.
Right.
Dave.
Oh, right. Sorry. Fly 2023.
Wake up at the back.
Story there. But Fly 2023, that's coming up to the end. You've got just over a week to take part. If you look on the Flyer forum, there's a whole bunch of stories and people. And I was looking earlier today, and there's a very inspirational piece from a chap called Russ Pender. Russ has been flying his Foxbat A22 around. He's just achieved his personal goal of 100 hours. That's just over 6,000 minutes, plus 40 airfields visited. So he's passed the target, if you like. It's the first year he's achieved 100 hours in a calendar year. So he's also achieved the highlight of flying, taking his other half to the 2K for the first time. It says in his post, I definitely feel like I'm starting to get properly on top of my aircraft, and I'm much less fazed by short grass strips than I used to be. I wouldn't have done anything near as much flying if it wasn't for the other 3 or 4 active flies operating out of my home strip at Finmere. he says, goes on, and this is the bit that got me. I realise in the big scheme of things, it's not much, but it feels significant, and all in all, not bad for an old overweight bloke who drags around a wheelchair with him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And some great pictures of that Russ has shot, and he's put links to his Flickr channel and his YouTube channel, which are really well worth a look. It's really inspirational how Russ has grasped Fly 2023 and run with it. It's
no, I
shows what a little challenge like that can do.
Yeah, very good.
Did you say what he was flying, Dave?
It's a microlight called a Foxbat A22.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it's 2-seater, fixed wing, very nice little aircraft. Good for short strips.
Yeah, good, cool.
Yeah. But yeah,
I noticed when you folded your arms, you set your musical jumper off as well, Dave.
Sorry about that. Yes.
I wondered where that was coming from.
Here it is. It's on here. It's a little special, this jumper.
Oh, that's lovely.
It's also extremely hot, so I'm going.
We're not ready for that, Dave.
Right.
Yes. So is it time for the weather?
It is.
Sadly, Simon can't be with us live tonight, but I'm sure everyone here joins us in wishing him Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Let's hold that thought until he's told us what the weather's like before we get too generous. Here you go.
Good evening, everybody. Hope that you're almost ready for Christmas. For the big man himself up in Lapland, it's pretty cold. These are the temperatures this afternoon: -9s, -10s, -15s in the far north of Lapland. It's actually going to be warming up a little bit by Christmas Eve evening there, but still I think the reindeers are going to be pretty chilly, and looking forward to heading to some warmer climes. Now, if you're thinking of taking your particular motorised reindeer out through the Christmas weekend, this is what you're going to expect. We've got another windy one tomorrow. Notice the isobars close together across much of England and Wales. Gales once again. Fronts further north bringing some outbreaks of rain, but the winds at least are going to be lighter here. But I have to say, I think for many of us, non-VFRable, either because of the wind or because of the rain. Not the best day for flying. Now, Saturday is a very windy, gusts getting up to around 40 knots plus again across many parts of England and Wales. Across Scotland, we've got a front in control. That's going to be bringing lots of cloud with it. Notice the red colours and the yellow colours here on the cloud ceiling forecast. That's telling us the bases are around 500 to 1,000 feet. Further south, probably going to be finding bases closer to around 4,000 feet, with the tops at about 8,000 feet. But that wind is basically going to be knocking most things on the head. It'll be quite turbulent as well. As for Christmas Eve, well, it's another windy one, I'm afraid. Isobars close together. Rain getting through Ireland, through much of North Wales, northwest England, western parts of Scotland as well. This area generally is non-VFRable. Bases are going to be less than 1,000 feet for many areas. 15 to 20,000 foot tops. Slightly better northeastern parts of Scotland, but I think for England and Wales, winds again gusting to between 40 and 50 knots, if not a little stronger, despite there being fair conditions in the far south. For the big day itself, Christmas Day, the remnants of those fronts lying through the Midlands, through parts of Wales, you see here the yellow and orange colours showing us about 500 to 1,000 foot bases once again. Behind it though, notice the bases increasing, although where this weak front is, probably bringing bases of around 1,000 to 1,500 feet, and generally not great conditions. So overall, those of you venturing out Christmas Day, check the forecast carefully, but it ain't looking brilliant. However, come Boxing Day, and there is a little bit of uncertainty in this, ridge of high pressure building in, some morning mist and fog patches, they will be clearing away from most areas, and then for most of us it looks like being a fair day. Bases probably around 3 to 5,000 feet, tops about 8 to 10,000 feet, just some increasing cloud later from this front edging into the far southwest. But out of all of them, Boxing Day is looking the day for flying. Now, if you're looking for that late Christmas gift, can I recommend my online Aviation Weather School Part 1 course, presented live by me on the Tuesday evenings of the 23rd and the 30th of January. It'd be absolutely super to see you there. You can book your place now. This really does make the perfect Christmas gift for any pilot. Just go to weatherschool.co.uk and you can do that now. Okay, I will leave you with that for now. All that remains for me to say is have a very, very happy Christmas and a peaceful New Year. If you are flying over the Christmas and New Year period, do it very carefully. Check the latest forecast. We're here throughout at weatherweb.net, so you can check all the latest flying forecasts there. But for now, have a super time, and I'll see you next year. Bye for now.
Yeah, I think we can wish Simon a happy Christmas on the back of that. There's a little fun bit of story here for you, Mike. In 2008, I watched Mike Fly's first season in Anglesey. Watched the TV show that highlighted the Reds, joined ATC, and now work in aviation. So that's a career you've kind of helped to inspire.
Fantastic.
I
think that was my very first display, actually.
Wow.
By Maris, yeah. That was just before we did the Southend Air Show. Yeah, it was in 2008. Yeah, that's great. What a lovely story.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, where are we in the old schedule?
It's time for questions of the week, and we've had a story on the website this week about favourite airfields based on some data from SkyDemon. It's been quite controversial, but so we just like to pose the questions of the week as what's your favourite airfield? We'll be talking about that story on the website a bit later, so put your answers in the comments and we'll pick them up.
Okay, excellent. Right, my turn to do the weekly pleading, seeing as Johnny's not here for it. Join the bloody club. If you're not a member, join the club. It's £5 a month. This month, you'll get free landing fees for the rest of December. So maybe Boxing Day, you can land at Falmere, Henstridge, Taton Hill, Perth, and Hackney Green. And in January, you'll be able to land at Haverfordwest, Wickham, Sherburn, Dunk as well. Oh, there's one missing there. I'll look it up later when something else is going on and come back to you with the landing fees. There is a fifth one. I'm pretty sure that in there somewhere.
Could be Sandown.
I don't think it is.
Huh?
I don't know.
Right.
I'll check it out and come back to you. Just kind of, a little bit rusty there on the whole presentation. Oops. So yeah, and the other thing, just to remind you, if you are a member, you get access to the webinars. We've been holding a webinar a month over the last year, so there's 12 of those waiting there for you to look at. One of them featuring Ed Hicks himself talking about the world of kit building. So that's got to be worth £5 all day long, hasn't it? Need to say that. Right. Okay, it's news time.
News time. Before we start the news, I'd just like to say hello to Andrew Zabak, who's saying hello from America.
Hello, Andrew.
Yes. Very good. So big news, and I think caught a lot of people by surprise. In an email sent to members yesterday, LAA CEO Simon Tilling announced that the LAA rally would return in 2024 and would be held at a new venue of Leicester. In the email, he said, "I'm very pleased to announce that following agreement with the airport management team, the 2024 LAA rally will be held at Leicester over the weekend of 30th of August to 1st of September 2024. I'm really glad that we're going back to Leicester and glad that the team there are as keen as we are to make a fantastic event, whether you're a pilot, owner or enthusiast." And he promised more information will follow. Leicester was the home of the PFA rally, the Popular Flying Association, in 1979, 1980 and 81. Witness this picture. So, I think it's going to be a great return there. So, I'm really looking forward to it.
I think I've got it right in saying that the track-looking thing that's at about 10:30, 11 o'clock in that picture, I think that's a go-kart racing track, if I remember rightly. But I might have got my airfields mixed up.
Oh yeah. No, I see what you're looking at there. Yep.
Yeah. So,
it is. I think we've raced there actually, Ian.
Yeah, it would have been a while ago, but
it would have been a while ago. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So. Next story is about a company called Skyrise, a States company, a startup. They've been working on safety technology, and they've been trying to develop technology which lands the aircraft for you should you have something like engine failure. They've made it really difficult for themselves by deciding to do it for a helicopter first of all. If you think when a helicopter, they've got a lovely little video which we've included in the story. In a helicopter, you've got about 2 seconds to start the process of what they call auto rotation. You've got to keep the rotors turning, otherwise, you just fall out. You do literally fall out of the sky. So they've got this video out. They've tested it on an R66, Robinson R66, and it, from from the moment where you go engine out and the things it goes straight into what's called the glide, which is exactly the same as on a fixed wing aircraft. It does seem very complicated when you get closer to the ground, because you've got to produce a flare, and then as you flare, then you push forward again, and you've got all the controls. If you've ever flown a helicopter, whenever you do one thing, you've immediately got to do 3 other things. It's an incredibly complicated thing to fly. Anyway, they successfully did this. One of the test pilots was your mate Elliot Seguin, Ed, and he was saying at some point, they could test bits of it, all the whole system, but at some point they really had to go and do it and do a full auto rotation to the ground. And they had lots of video cameras on board just in case it didn't go quite right, but it did go absolutely right. And it's all on there. The thing about the technology, it's not just for helicopters. They're going to announce their first helicopter with it fitted as standard in early next year, but it can also be fitted to fixed-wing aircraft, where obviously it's a lot easier if you have engine failure and you're at something like 2,500 feet at least. You've got a bit of time to play with. So that's quite a step ahead, I think. Oh, the other thing I should have mentioned is that he recently got a Guinness World Record for their auto rotation. First time a helicopter's landed in a fully automated auto rotation successfully.
Wow.
Fancy.
Yeah, we don't need eVTOLs then now, do we? We just need automated helicopters.
I mean, like test pilot gig there. I don't know, because I used to fly Robinsons a long time ago, and it's not like bloody helicopters. They're not like fixed wing. There's no like inherent stability. If it goes wrong beyond a certain point, then it doesn't matter whether you're Frank Robinson himself. You're not going to get it back, are you? It's beyond the laws of physics at one point. And then,
yeah.
You don't want helicopter flying, Mike?
I've got a couple of 100 hours in squirrels. Yeah. When I was red 10, I was ferried around in a squirrel, sat in the left-hand seat, and did a lot of the flying. Yeah, it's
fancy the automatic auto rotation.
No, I don't at all. There's a lot of faith in that kit, that's for sure. But well done to them.
In the video, they have a camera just behind the 2 pilots, and you can see his hand is
twitching,
hovering over the collector for the whole time, just in case it doesn't quite work.
Okay. Wow. Okay, but the good news here, Sky. What am I talking about? Sky. Cubcrafters delivered their 1,000th aeroplane. This particular one went to a guy called Tim Sheehy, who started the firefighting company Bridger Aerospace behind him in 2014. Anyway, so that's their 1,000th aircraft. Cubcrafters started in 1980, but didn't get around to building fully certified full aircraft until 1996. So 27 years, they've delivered 8,000 of them. I said in their press release that Tim Sheehy is a ex-Navy SEAL and a good old American, eats lots of apple pie and stuff like that. So
wow, that just flash that aeroplane up. It's like they created an aeroplane for Noddy, isn't it?
I'm just thinking the sequel to Disney's Planes, Fire and Rescue.
Yeah, give that a pair of eyes, and that's a character straight away.
It's actually a great looking airplane.
Yeah,
it's not a bad looking airplane, is it? I mean, the trouble is, if you're anyone other than Tim flying it, you'd feel a bit of a fraud, wouldn't you? Like, don't tell me about fires. I can't. It's not me. I'm just borrowed the aeroplane.
Yeah, I wonder. Given that the aeroplane behind it has, can land on a lake and scoop up tens of thousands of liters of water, as the Cub got like a water bottle in the water bottle holder, you like open the window and shakes them out.
It's a spotter, I guess. Is it to go and pinpoint where the fires are? We did something similar for 2XL when I was during COVID, when I couldn't do the blades flying. We were seconded to another part of 2XL, the special missions department. And I don't know if you've seen the 2XL 727 oil spill aircraft.
Yeah.
All right.
So they've got booms fitted at the back of 2 727 freighters, and they go and fly over. They go 400 feet, 150 knots over an oil spill. 150 feet, 150 knots over an oil spill, and spray this dispersant out the back. But of course, they're 4-hour standby permanently. But to launch that is obviously very expensive. So to go and assess the size of the spill and take photos with hyperspectral cameras and things, they have a PA-28 as the spotter. So that's what I was doing during COVID, was flying out over the North Sea looking for oil spills.
Well,
and then we data link the photos back instantly to the company, and then the decision will be made whether or not to launch the 727. So I guess that's what the Cub does.
Yeah, that must have been. You must have been sat there going, "Mighty PA-28."
Yeah, it wasn't blessed with power, but it was good fun. It was very rewarding actually. It was one of the 5 roles we had. The others were border force, so we were flying over the channel, with infrared cameras at the middle of the night, looking for dinghies. We were doing fisheries protection during that big sort of Brexit process. We were doing Coast Guard search and rescue. That was very rewarding indeed, and Coast Guard sort of maritime surveillance. So yeah, it was. Yes, it's a PA-28. Sorry, not a PA-28, PA-31 Navajo. So it was very interesting.
Very cool.
I'm glad it was Navajo because I'm not sure I fancy like patrolling.
No, sorry, I said PA-28.
PA-31. Bloody hell.
Yeah. What do you mean I've got to fly low over the water?
With one engine, yeah, 200 miles off the coast of Land's End.
Okay.
Me next. I've got another Vans Chapter 11 update. So obviously Vans filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy back on December 4th. They were back in court on December the 19th to get approval to use cash on hand to run the business day to day while reorganisation proceeds and allows it to accept outside funding. In that case, the outside funding is coming from founder Dick Van Gunsum's family trust. Both motions were unopposed and approved by the judge. The company started to notify customers on Monday that prices were going up and asked them to approve their new purchase agreement. Van's lawyer at the hearing gave some detail on this on an initial group of 550 orders, stating that 60% of them opted to reorder within 24 hours, representing a value of $6.7 million in orders. And that process has since continued to roll out to over 1,000 other customers. Those customers have until January 30th, 2024 to accept or reject the new pricing and conditions.
Cool.
So positive steps, I think, for them.
Moving forward slowly, yeah. Absolutely. Well, we got a new world champion. We've got a gliding world champion just announced in the standard class. Been flying for 10 days out in New South Wales, so that's pretty good. Tom Arscott is the new UK world champion, so round of applause to Tom. Well done. And he was previously, I believe, a junior champion, so he's kind of like working there you go, there's a picture.
Excellent.
Working his way up through the ranks, so looks like the weather there's not too shabby, does it, really, compared to
only one of those appears to be a real glider pilot, judging by the hat.
That's very true, Ed. Good point. I wonder if we're successful at gliding because glider pilots get to scratch around in such average conditions in the UK compared to the sort of booming areas of South Africa and New Zealand and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Who knows?
Hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, good. Cool. Dave.
So that top 5 airfields story, we got some data from SkyDemon about the places that people in the UK were flying to. Obviously, SkyDemon picks up all this from people working on their navigation, and the 5 places that proved to be most popular amongst SkyDemon users were Turweston, Sandown, Duxford, Leon Solent Airport, and Popham. All quite a southern bias there, probably because there's a number of pilots down south, but they're all very nice airfields. Sandown in particular is a great place to go. It's nice and welcoming. Turweston, there's not a lot actually at Turweston, is there, apart from the LAA?
It's an amazing work, Dave. Dave, hang on a minute. I just need to.
Nice cafe.
No, they got a nice cafe. I think you can still get medical done in the cafe. You have to book it first and stuff like that. And
get a medical done in the cafe?
Not in the cafe. I think there was I know Frank Wooten used to have a kind of medical clinic there where you can go and get your aviation medical done. I don't know. He's lived in Germany now, but I don't know who does it there now.
It's a busy, vibrant place, and I think a lot of people use it for fuel, and it's kind of centrally located. They've got maintenance there. There's aircraft painting goes on there. Weirdly, I even saw some photos on Facebook this week of a racing yacht going off down the runway there, and because Ineos build their racing yachts there. So
right. Well, I'll take it back in that case.
It's my local airfield, 20 minutes from home. It's, it's very nice.
Look at this picture that's over my shoulder there. The one that's got a bright light in. That was my Luscombe, which was based at Western for a while.
So since your Luscombe's no longer there, that's it. There's nothing there of any interest. Not much going on.
My old Luscombe is now a part of
Okay.
it. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. Let us know your figures. I just checked, and I hadn't managed. I didn't forget any.
Right, Dave's jumper is off on one again.
Sorry,
it was a fire alarm somewhere. Right. Okay. Moving on. It's nearly time for the interview with Mike, but as it's Christmas and to get us all in the Christmas spirit, Poolies published this approach plate. Well, not really approach plate, a VFR guide plate for the North Pole. So I thought, rather than leaving that up on the screen, I'd appoint myself quizmaster and ask you guys some interesting questions. So the first question we have here: Do you in order to land at the North Pole, you need PPR? Who wants to guess what PPR stands for at the North Pole?
Well, it can't be anything as dull as prior permission.
Correct.
Pole permission.
Please, Rudolph.
Please,
it's very good.
Presents provided regularly.
Wow. I prefer Mike's. Mike's got that kind of quick competition edge that suggests that he would win on countdown.
I did have a go on the chase and it didn't go very well. So I'm not going to agree with you on that one, Ed, I'm afraid.
Okay, the North Pole, they've invented their own phonetic alphabet. So as opposed to the normal one that we all know and love, let's start off with an easy one. What is the North Pole phonetic alphabet for Sierra?
Santa.
There you go, Mike. Well done. Excellent. Okay, people, get with the plan, shall we? How about Delta?
Dancer. Dasher.
Oh, another one. Well done. Okay, this one is. Let's have. This one's easy. Mike, as in the letter M, not Mike Ling.
Mistletoe.
Yep, 3 out of 3. I think you're leaving everyone else standing. To be honest,
sorry,
Dave. Ed, you need to up your Christmas game a bit.
Annabelle says, going back to the PPR. I don't think it was that, Annabelle.
That's Anton. That's South Pole.
No, I don't think so too. Right. I think that's enough of that competition because clearly we all know who's winning that. So I think it's time to have a little interview and have a chat with Mike. Now I was doing a little bit of research.
Looking at the answers, apparently, according to Jane. Where are the answers, Ian?
What's that? Mike, that's not the answers. Only we've had that sprung on us, Jane. So Mike is actually that good at quizzes. He's the guy you would want on your pub quiz team.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. There you go. The answers are on the Poolies plate. I'm sure if you go on the Poolies website and various other websites, you'll find a better copy of the Poolies plate. You'll find a whole phonetic alphabet, all sorts of things. Just out of interest, whiskey happens to be whiskey for Christmas.
Surprising.
The world's most disgusting drink. But anyway, while we're in Scotland and upsetting Scottish people, I do need to say thank you very much for David Eads from Easter Airfield for the generous presents of honey, mead, and candles made out of his own beeswax. Thank you very much, David. Very much appreciated. Right. Moving on, it's time to have a chat with Mike. I was saying I did a little bit unusually, Mike. I believe you grew up at Biggin Hill.
I did, yeah. That's where my love of aeroplanes began. Yeah, born and bred Biggin Hill.
Biggin Hill Air Show, which was I can't remember what was the name of the guy. Jock Maitland, was it?
Jock Maitland, yeah. Jock Maitland, the lovely Jock. Yeah. In fact, he had a road at Biggin Hill. There was a new road opened leading up to the cafe, which I've forgotten the name of. The Lookout, is it? I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
The Lookout, yeah. And that road is called Maitland View. And I flew down in a red jet from Scampton and met up with Jock, and we unveiled the road sign. It was very, very nice.
Oh, very nice. Pretty cool. Well, so there you go. So you grew up and you decided to go and join the Air Force. You joined the Air Cadets at 13 or something and went on. And then I've never been in the Air Force, so I'm not sure I've got the terminology right. But apparently you did so well, you became is it a creamy?
Yeah, so the term of being a creamy is when you're going through flying training, there are essentially 4 phases of flying training: elementary flying training, and then if you're streamed to the fast jet world, you do basic fast jet training, then advanced flying training, and then tactical weapons training. And after the advanced flying training, depending on where you came on the course or what your attributes were, then you could be selected to be an instructor. So rather than go to the front line for your first operational tour, you would go to a flying training school and be an instructor. And back in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, there were lots of creamies because of the knock-on effect, would you believe, of the first Gulf War, where they had to take a lot of pilots out of the instructional roles and put them back on the front line. They were short of instructors. There was a huge backlog in getting students through the training pipeline. So they introduced, or they really heavily weighed upon this creamy system. And yeah, I was one of those in the early 2000s.
So it would have been what, on Tucanos or something? Or
yeah, so the options were at the time, you could either stay on the Hawk at Valley, the T1 at Valley, or you could go back to Linton-on-Ouse and fly the Tucano. And I really wanted, I was loving flying the Hawk. I really fancied staying there, but they decided to send me back to Linton. So can't complain at 3 extra years in York flying the Tucano, but it was great. And actually the beauty of that is that because on that course, the basic fast jet training course, students, they'd only flown 60 odd hours in a single engine piston, and you were teaching them all of the ejection seat, the oxygen systems, the low level navigation at 240 knots, formation, tactical formation, landaways, all these extra things, night flying that they wouldn't have done on the elementary flying course. So you were teaching the very bottom, the basic level of things to the students, whereas I think on the Hawk they'd done everything on the Tucano, they were just doing it a bit faster. So it wasn't sort of grassroots teaching, it was just teaching them how to do it in that other airplane.
I've read a few books and a few people over the years who've gone through the kind of military training thing, and most people seem to say that they kind of feel stretched at every single level, and you kind of get not comfortable but feel like you're understanding, for example, I don't know, the Tucano or something, and the next thing you know, you have to do the same thing but so much bloody faster that your brain needs to step up.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I describe it. So you in the day, those days, you were given quite a lot of flying on the Tucano. I think it was 100 hours, 140 hours, I think, on the course, which was just shy of a year. And as you say, you'd learnt all of these things and were getting quite comfortable with it. And then you'd finish that course and off you go to Valley and do it at nearly twice the speed. And then you're sort of water skiing behind the jet the whole time for the first few flights when you've been so used to doing it at a certain rate in a Tucano. But I think that's the way it's designed. And it's a well-proven system, isn't it? The military flying training aspects of it.
There was a mysterious part in the thing I was reading about you that said you were posted to Canada, but it didn't say what you did. So was it like an 8-month holiday or something?
Yeah, well, that was so, again, because there was a shortage of places for students. There was such a desperate need to get pilots onto the front line that they had to look for overseas training opportunities for Royal Air Force pilots. So the RAF signed up to NATO Flying Training Canada, NFTC, which was in Moose Jaw in Saskatchewan to start with, to learn to fly the Hawk 115. So the basic or the advanced flying training was done at Moose Jaw, and then move across for that phase 4 I talked about, the tactical weapons training, was in Cold Lake in Alberta. So when I finished my creamy tour at Linton on the Tucano, I moved to Canada and did 8 months out there flying the Hawk 115 in Saskatchewan and Alberta, and it was fantastic. You know, we had Italians, Singaporeans, Hungarians, Canadians, obviously on the course, German instructors, Italian instructors. It was a really good way of meeting other similar-minded people from different countries. It was fantastic.
It's a big old country and not a huge amount of controlled airspace.
Exactly that, and the Cold Lake air weapons range is vast, as you can imagine. It was incredible flying around there. I was there from, I think it was March to November, so I didn't get to see a Canadian winter. I left I think the mercury might have hit about -10 as I was leaving in mid-November. But the course after me, my best mate was on, and it got down to -40. So and they had to do a survival exercise and stay overnight in ultra freezing temperatures. So I didn't envy them of that.
Presumably, when it gets down that cold, the jets just live in heated hangars.
Yeah, I wasn't there, so I couldn't tell you, Ian. But I think
who cares?
Yeah, it was. I know for a fact the jet performs much better in cold temperatures, so it must have been a proper rocket ship in those sort of temperatures.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the next thing I was reading about you, and this is the thing we spoke about a little bit earlier, I didn't know this at all, actually. So you joined the Red Arrows as Red 3. I don't know if they just kind of give people random numbers or something, but anyway, you got number 3. And then you ended up moving to Red 6, which was the synchro pair, I believe. And then in 2010, it said here that you hit the other synchro, or maybe you didn't hit. Anyway, there was a coming together of a synchro pair at a fast airspeed that resulted in a low-level ejection, and you ended up in hospital for quite a while getting stitched up. So
yeah,
I didn't know about that, and I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone who's been through that in any detail. So if you will, and if it's not too painful, perhaps you could kind of like take us back to before it actually happened, and not when you were living in Biggin Hill, not that far, but when you were
it was a pretty poor day at work, I have to say. We were on our way to Cyprus. The Red Arrows historically trained in Cyprus every spring just to make use of the good Mediterranean weather, and we were on our way there. And on the way, we were going to stay at an airfield on Crete called Castelli, so Hellenic Air Force Base. I think it was day 2 or day 3 there. We transited across there from the UK, and this was now probably 5 months. It was March 2010, so it was probably 5 months into training for the 2010 display. I was the synchro leader. I'd been the synchro wingman in 2009, so I'd done a year as synchro, and then, as is customary, I then became the synchro leader in my 3rd and final year in the team. We'd done 5 months of training. We were up to 9 ships, so the Red Arrows were doing 9 ship practices, and we were just doing what we called overland training in Greece before we moved to Cyprus to then put the real polish on the display, ready for the public display approval. And this was I think it was the 2nd flight of the day, and we launched for a 9-ship practice over this base in Castelli. And in one of the maneuvers in the second half of the show, we split as the synchro pair and then fly down the runway towards each other for something called the opposition barrel roll, which was essentially fly towards each other and then bank towards each other. I'll use hands in the bar now. Bank towards each other to cross over and then perform opposing barrel rolls to cross again in front of crowd center. Now, that in that original crossing of flight path before we reversed to do the barrel roll, we were closer than I had anticipated, and we collided. So we're each doing 330 knots. The planned height for the maneuver is 100 feet. So we're at 100 feet, 330 knots. Both of our last maneuvers or inputs were to push, so we'd started descending, and obviously that took us below 100 feet. My wingman's tail fin hit my canopy about 18 inches above my head, which was the tip of his tail fin. Very big bang, shattered the canopy, obviously. In fact, his starboard tail plane as well hit my wing. Now, if you've seen a Hawk wing, it's got a vortex generator. It's got a row of vortex generators on each wing, and those vortex generators are probably just shy of an inch tall. And his tail plane took off one of my vortex generators. I mean, it was that's how. If it had been maybe an inch lower, it would probably sliced my wing off and sliced his tail off. But as I say, last input was to push. I got a lot of wind noise at 330 knots. So what's that? 360-ish miles an hour, something like that. Lots of perspex glass in the canopy, in the cockpit, sorry. And because I just pushed, I thought, I'm not staying here. So I reached down with my right hand and pulled the ejection seat handle to get out of there as quick as I could. As I pulled the handle, I left my left hand on the throttle because it all happened quite quickly. I knew I was going to hit the ground fairly soon. I just did it very quickly, left hand on the throttle, whereas the design is for both hands to be on the handle so that your arms stay as close to your body as possible to stop them flailing around. But I had my left hand on the throttle, pulled the handle. The system worked, albeit the canopy didn't shatter as advertised. If you've seen the inside of a Hawk cockpit, you see the wiggly lines on the canopy. So that's actually explosive cord. It's called MDC, micro detonation cord. That explodes a fraction before the seat goes up through the canopy to shatter the canopy. But that pattern is designed in a very specific way to shatter it in a certain pattern to enable the seat to go through. So my MDC, because of the impact, the MDC had been dislodged, or the pattern had been rearranged and it didn't work properly. So I ejected. As I hit the wind, the airflow at 330 knots, my head got hit back into the ejection seat and I was knocked out. I've seen my helmet, actually. They use it at the Aviation Medical Centre at Henlow, and my helmet's got a huge dent in the back. I mean, it is a massive dent. That knocked me out. So I was then in a parachute for probably about 4 seconds, I think. Hit the ground. Unfortunately, where the jet hit the ground was a big fireball, and that affected the inflation of the parachute canopy, so it didn't inflate quite properly. So my rate of descent was higher than designed. I was unconscious, so I couldn't perform my proper parachute landing rolls. Hit the ground, and my legs hyperextended backwards, so they both bent backwards. That was it. I came to as I hit the ground. Lots of burning. I had the most gritty feeling in my eyes. I had blood all over my face, and the grit in my eyes is that my very first thought is, what has happened to my eyes? I'll come back to that in a minute. And then I thought, right, okay, what happened there? Have I hit the ground in the jet, or have I ejected? Okay, can't really think. I sort of rolled over, and I saw connected to our life jackets is a clip that then connects to a survival pack, which is actually the seat cushion, or forms the seat portion of the ejection seat. And in there's a dinghy and the survival kit. That clips onto you by a Dayglow cord. And I saw this Dayglow cord, and I thought, well, I must have ejected because my survival pack has dropped and I can see the Dayglow cord. So, right, okay, so I've put it together, I've ejected. And then I looked over and I could see the watch I was wearing. I could see it, but it was probably about 6 inches further away from my body than it normally might be. I thought, my arms come off. I genuinely thought I'd lost my arm. It was that far away. Actually, I just dislocated my shoulder because my left hand had been on the throttle still, and I wasn't in the correct posture for ejection. My shoulder ended up sort of down here. And therefore my watch was further away than it normally would be. So I sat up with a bit of a sore back, sat up, and I could still move my fingers. So I thought, okay, I've still got my arm. Right. Now I'm going to look for my wingman. Can I see him? Has he survived? Within about 90 seconds, people were on scene. Because of the nature of the practice we were doing, the impact happened exactly at Crowd Centre, where there was a supervisor who was by design 230 meters away. So he sprinted over and was there on scene in less than 2 minutes. So I asked him how my wingman was, and he said, yeah, he's still airborne. I said, well, he can't be. We've just flown into each other. There's no way he's airborne. And he said, I promise you he's still airborne. And he had a handheld radio. And then I heard Red 7 on the radio, so I knew he was airborne. And in a very stricken jet, he had the top of his tail fin missing, the tip of his right-hand tailplane missing, and they didn't know what other damage. So the rest of the formation diverted to Heraklion International. And in fact, Red 7's jet, when they took a part off the back of the engine tailpipe off when it landed, and the rudder fell off. And it was in a pretty bad way. But anyway, that was his jet. He didn't eject, and they all landed safely. I then got moved to Heraklion Hospital. A Huey helicopter, search and rescue helicopter, landed right next to where I was on this airfield. And I thought, brilliant, I'll get in this helicopter and it'll be a nice, easy route to a hospital. But somebody took the decision to put me in an ambulance instead and then drive me on quite a mountain. If you've been to Crete, there's quite a few mountains that go across the middle of Crete. And Heraklion, or this airfield, was on the other side of the mountains to Heraklion. So we went on this ambulance, blues and twos going. I was on a spinal board in the back of this ambulance. And bear in mind, I dislocated my shoulder. I wasn't strapped down. And there was a nurse kneeling on the floor of this ambulance holding my arm. And every time the ambulance driver accelerated or braked, I was sliding on this spinal board, but she was holding my arm. So it was absolute agony. So I just asked her to ask the driver, just slow down. We don't have to have blue lights on. Just tell them to take it easy because it really hurts. And then I got to hospital. I was in the Greek hospital for only 2 days, actually. And then the Air Force aeromedical evacuation system kicked in, and it's an incredible process. It really is. For all the guys and girls that were wounded on operations, there is a system that the military has that is, I think, second to none, because that swung into action and they diverted a VC-10 that was returning from an exercise in Oman. They diverted it from its route to pick me up in Heraklion. So I got put on I actually went on through the catering trolley onto this VC-10 because it was the only way they could get me on. So I was on a catering high loader, a high lift, put on this stretcher into the VC-10, laid on this thing. But I damaged my lung in ejecting because of the wind blast. So I damaged my lungs, and I was therefore limited to what height or what cabin altitude I could go to. So this VC-10 actually had to fly home, sub 15,000 feet to limit the cabin altitude at which I was at on a stretcher or on a bed in the back of this VC-10. And then they airlifted me. They landed straight into Birmingham International, where there was an ambulance waiting. Took me to, back then, Selly Oak Hospital, and I went on the military ward in Selly Oak and spent about a month in there going through various surgical procedures on my legs, trying to get them rebuilt. So yeah, that was not a good day at work. It was, but it could have been very different. As I say, an inch lower, it could have been very different for the both of us. So I'm forever thankful to the way it did end up. I'd rather not have been in that situation in the first place, but the way it ended up, in all honesty, was probably the best outcome in that situation. And I'm eternally grateful to Martin Baker ejection seats. It's such an incredible piece of equipment, 1950s design and technology in a Mark 10 seat that is now saved. I think I saw on their website yesterday 7,716 lives.
Yeah,
it's stunning. It's a real staggering statistic. So, and I've been very fortunate to have been to see the company at Denham, to go and see the factory and meet some of the people. And it's like going back in time. The factory is that the workers are in their lab coats and they're all just on production lines. It's fantastic. It's a brilliant company, and as I say, forever grateful to them.
I'm guessing you've got your Caterpillar type in then.
Yeah, so I do have a Martin Baker tie. Yeah, so I'm a member of the Martin Baker Tie Club. I also have the Bremont MB1 watch, which only ejectees can buy. So yeah, I've got one of those as well. So yes.
Has it got extra big numbers on in case your arm's too far away when you?
So
you were upright when you ejected then.
So I was nose down, right wing low. So probably only maybe 30 degrees angle of bank. I can't remember what the report says, but yes, it was upright.
Yeah.
And what's the path? Obviously, once you've recovered, what's the path back into the jet and back into the team?
Yeah, because of my legs, I had to have a few operations, and then I was in a wheelchair for maybe 2-3 months, something like that. But because I couldn't use my arm to push a wheelchair around, because I would just be going around in circles with one arm in a wheelchair. So I spoke to the RAF Benevolent Fund, and they very kindly got me a powered wheelchair, which was a game changer in terms of recovery, just being independent and trying to help and not be a burden on anybody. Giving me an electric wheelchair was the best thing that could have ever happened for that 2 or 3 month period, because I even convinced the doctors to aeromedically evacuate me out of the UK to go to Cyprus to meet with the rest of the team, so that I could just try and be as normal as possible. Otherwise, I was stuck at home on my own, and they did. It was me and 5 nurses using it as an aeromed training exercise to take me to Cyprus with my electric wheelchair, and buzzing around RAF Akrotiri on a it was called the Typhoon 2. The Typhoon 2 wheelchair, but it was too big to go in any of the cars we had, so I had to go everywhere in this wheelchair. I couldn't even get to work in a car. I had to go for the 2 miles down the track at Akrotiri to get to the squadron. And there was one night we went bowling with the shortlist candidates, so the new pilots joining. We went bowling, but because I'd been to work and back, the battery was running out. Got to this bowling alley, and the battery ran out. So one of the guys went back to my room in the mess, got my wheelchair charger, and I spent the rest of the evening in the corner plugged into the socket while they were all bowling. Yeah, there were some highs and lows, that's for sure.
Richard Kennedy says, did the whole team have a go in the chair?
No, well, I couldn't get out of the chair because I couldn't put any weight on my legs. So no is the answer to that. But they did. There is evidence, photographic and video evidence somewhere of of people on the back of it when I was taking them for joyrides. Yeah. So
was there ever any doubt that you were going to fly again? Was that ever a question? Or
well, do you know what? It was the opposite in my mind. I was laid in that bed in Heraklion saying, well, it's fine. At the time, the only things I could feel pain-wise were my shoulder. I'd broken my thumb as well, and I had quite a few lacerations and burns on my arms and face. But the only real pain was the shoulder and my thumb. And I thought, that will heal in no time. It'll be right as rain, a few weeks, and I'll get back in the jet and off we go. It was only when I got to Selyoke and they did a proper look around at my legs and everything, and the doctor said, your leg really shouldn't bend 30 degrees left and right. A straight leg should not go 30 degrees left and right. We need to operate on that. And he said, and you're going to be offline for a long time. So I got discharged from hospital in this wheelchair. And then I'd spent 9 weeks at Headley Court, which at the time was the Defence Rehab Centre. Incredible place. I use the word incredible a lot, but there were some stages of this journey, which that's the only word to describe it, because it was so inspirational. Bearing in mind, this was at the height of Operation Herrick in Afghanistan and Telek in Iraq, so where boys and girls were coming back from operations with life-changing injuries. And the ward in Selyoke, I was in a hospital bed next to a guy who'd lost 2 limbs. I couldn't. There was no way I could feel sorry for myself because I had all my limbs. Yeah, they were a bit broken, but they were going to mend. This guy had lost 2 limbs. His life was changed. And then you get to Headley Court, and there are people that live there for 2 or 3 years going through this rehab process where they have got severe life-changing injuries. So, in an inspirational place, I felt like a fraud because all I was doing was getting essentially my joints and muscles back up to speed, ready to live a normal life, and everyone there, or majority of people in that place weren't. So it was a very inspirational place in that regard. And some of the things these guys and girls could do, as limbless ex-servicemen was very impressive. I managed to pass my fitness test at the end of my last stint at Headley Court. And then after that, I went to a medical review board and they gave me my flying medical back, which was in the February of 2011. So it was 11 months off flying. So longer than I would have liked. I did manage to convince the doctors to let me fly in the back seat of a jet 3 or 4 times, just before I left the team in the sort of September timeline. So before I left the Reds in October, I managed to fly in the back seat of a few displays, which was very good for their mental health as well.
So talking of which, just a couple of numbers. You flew for the Reds in 10 display seasons. It says here. 2,500 sorties and 700 public displays. So
so I became after that. So that was my 3rd and final year in the team. Normally a pilot would do 3 years. So I did 2008, 2009, and then that event happened in 2010. In 2011, I wasn't in the team. I was in a desk job, but I went back to the team as Red 10 in 2012. So I was the supervisor. And on the ground at every public display supervisor. So that 700 figure includes the supervision of displays. So I think the line says I was involved in 700 displays. It doesn't say I flew them. Okay. I did 6 years as Red 10, left the team again, and then I was called back to the team to be Red 3 for the 2018 season. So 10 seasons I was posted on the Red Arrows wearing a red suit. And it's actually 699 displays, but 700 looks better.
So are you still the go-to reserve for the Reds?
No, well, funnily enough, the year after that, I think it was 2019, one of the pilots, it might have been Red 3 again, broke his leg during training. So they had to call back one of the guys I left with at the end of 2018. They had to call him back. They didn't call me back. I'd retired from the Air Force by that point, so it was too late then.
Cool. Well, fascinating stories. We've actually gone a few minutes beyond our normal planning time for this. So if it's okay for you, we're going to transition from this into Fantasy Hangar. So stick with us. And this is there's a video somewhere we play a little intro. So here you go.
Very good.
Take it away, Ed.
Yeah. One comment, Mark Tideman says, one of the best stories a guest has told. I think definitely so.
There's a comment
and the emoji next to it as well with the
So this week in Fancy Hangar, given it's Christmas, we figured we'd go looking for aircraft with a North Pole connection. It was pretty challenging, this one. And you wouldn't have seen this, but just before we came online, Ian said to Mike, "Hey Mike, would you like to take part in Fancy Hangar?" And it would have been incredibly unfair to do this to poor old Mike. So Mike's going to judge. But anyway, who's first?
I think Dave should go first. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll go first.
Okay.
Maybe I'll go first. So, like, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, I was for a little period of time, I was into reading a whole load of literature about the South Pole. And, one of the books I read was the story of Amundsen basically getting to the South Pole before Scott got to the South Pole, and that was clearly the whole history of South Pole exploration was clearly full of people doing ridiculously hard things in ridiculous weather for many, many weeks, if not months, if not years at a time. And in those, it's hard to imagine how in those days you'd say, just going off for an expedition to go to the South Pole, I'll be about 3 years. See you when I get back. Sorry, I'm not on text. There's no signal down there. It must have been a bit strange. Anyway, Amundsen got there first, which is well documented. And perhaps what's less well known is when he got back, he kind of discovered the whole flying thing. So, we're talking about the early days of aviation here. This flying thing is going to make exploration a lot easier than setting out camps and trudging backwards and forwards and eating pemmican and all sorts of weird stuff like that. So he actually wrote to the Norwegian Army, who I think at the time were in charge of Norwegian aviation, as it was at the time, said, "Hello, my name's Amundsen. Would you mind awfully teaching me to fly?" And they went, "Yeah, all right." And they basically taught him to fly. And Amundsen was actually had issued pilot license #1 in Norway. It was the first civilian pilot license to be issued in Norway. And he went through a series of aircraft, that a lot of which didn't have a particularly happy time, to be fair, that crashed quite a lot, including he crashed one on his flight test as well, and he still passed. And this is the twin-engine Dornier War, as it were. This is an absolute scale model. The original doesn't exist anymore. And this is in the museum at Friedrichshafen, funny enough. And then he took two with him to the South Pole, to the North Pole. Sorry, N24 and N25. N24 was damaged on takeoff, and when it landed, after 8 hours flying, they kind of landed on some cracked leads in the ice and stuff like that, and realised that 24 was taken on water and was done for. So they made their way to 25, and they spent 3.5 weeks building a new ice runway to get out of there, which they eventually did. So there you go. That's my airplane, mainly for the backstory, because it's not the best looking airplane in the world, and it would have been freaking cold to fly in an open cockpit.
Yeah, you go, if you're going to take something to a cold place, at least go. Have we got anything that's enclosed?
Yes. Well, and apparently, so all of the crew from the N24, that was the registration, which I guess is a Norwegian registration, went to N25. They spent 3.5 weeks surviving on sort of small amounts of ration and trying to keep warm, living in what was the cramped quarters of that airplane, which only took 6 people, I think, and building this ice runway. And because the ice moves around a lot there 2 or 3 times, they had to go on that. Okay, well, that's scrapped. We've got to build another one now. So they kind of built the runway about 3 times. And then eventually, after getting rid of all sorts of things that they didn't need to make it as light as possible, all crammed in there, took off, got airborne, and went to Svalbard. The aircraft ended up in Munich, in a museum in Munich, where it was destroyed by Allied bombing during the war. So.
Amazing.
But there you go. So that's my fancy hangar airplane, mainly because of the backstory rather than the airplane itself, to be perfectly honest with you.
That's a good start. Dave, what have you gone for?
Well, did you know that there is a marathon at the North Pole every year?
No.
It's called the North Pole Marathon. It's the most northern marathon ever in the world. And they get there, the runners get there, they're flown in by Antonov AN-74. Here it is. Now, doesn't that look, that's a cool aeroplane. And it's enclosed. Look at that. That's a fantastic aeroplane. And it's got the jet engines on top like that, obviously to keep them out of the ice that's thrown up when they take off and land. But apparently it also gives up this Coanda effect, which I've been struggling to understand, but it just apparently helps the lift. But anyway, all of these runners fly to the North Pole in this. There's one in the spring. There's another one in the summer, and then they do the run and they get flown home again.
Wow.
Yep. So that's it. The AN-74 is my choice.
That is a cool choice, literally. A cool
I wonder if
choice.
that's where Honda got the idea for. Just stick with
Well, it's blown lift, isn't it? It's the whole blown lift concept. So
Mike probably knows all about aerodynamics and stuff.
you would.
Oh, that's long gone out of my brain, all that sort of stuff, I think.
Yeah. So
Okay, Ed.
that just leaves me. So I picked this. So this is the Conroy Tri-Turbo 3, or as I think it should be called, the DC-3-3. So this was a DC-3 fitted with 3 PC6 turboprops, obviously grafting one onto the nose. First flown in 1977. It was good for 200 knot cruise, and you could shut down the engine on the nose, and you'd still be okay for 160 knots. And it was used by a company called Polair and Maritime Patrol and Rescue, and they flew it out of Resolute Bay in Canada to operate up to the North Pole. So it was uniquely suited for flying long distances and landing on rough, unprepared snow runways. And I just think that's pretty cool.
Do you not think it's pretty ugly as well?
It's not as ugly as your choice or as weird as Dave's. And that's ugly, Dave. That's yours is defining the ugly stick, I think, Ian. So
okay. Fair enough.
And
well, there you go.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I think we'll consult with the audience, but I think we'll make Mike the
ultimate judge.
This.
Well, they have very good choices, actually. I like the Dornier from the historical angle. The AN is AN-74, you said, didn't you, Dave?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think was the Kohler.
Coanda.
Coanda. I remember that from recce lessons when I was back flying the Tornado. But actually, I'd been looking through the comments, and somebody had said about landing a DC-3 in the North Pole in 1952. And then I started thinking about the DC-3. I'd flown in the BBMF's Dakota and love that aeroplane. So I was going to say a DC-3 if you had asked me. So Ed, you then piped in with DC-33. So Ed with the DC-33, and the fact that it looks so odd with those 3 engines, I think we'll go with the DC-33.
Wow. Okay. Cool. I'll take that. I'll just run through the comments though, and there's a couple of interesting ones. Paul Cadell says, easy one. There's a tri-motor, Richard Byrd's 1925 Focus, is that 7A 3M, which flew to the North Pole. I think he got close, but not quite to the North Pole. And that aeroplane still survives in the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. What else have we got? Martin Lusby says a P-51 flew non-stop 3,260 miles and over the North Pole.
That's impressive.
I think a guy did that in a Lancer 4 a few years ago. As he did the record flight, he did both poles. What else? Where did Dave adopt his taste in aircraft? I take it back. Dave wins. Oh, Ed wins. Ed's DC-3 looks like a Pilatus PC-21 and a DC-3 had a child. That's truly horrible. I'm going to have to disagree with you, Nick. I think my DC-3 is pretty nice looking. Dak on skis for the win. What else have we got? There we go. The Tri-Turbo 3 fuselage still exists. It's in storage over the road from Basler, which is famous for the turbine DC-3s. Mike wins tonight. Mike had no choice, Martin. I guess given his story, he definitely wins. Ian wins. I like heads. Dave Jumpers wins. Dave's tonight. Dave. Well, it's all very well you saying Dave wins, but Mike decreed me the winner. So
Ed wins. Right, just to wrap up then, we're a couple of minutes over. What have we got in terms of events, Dave?
Right, I've got 4 events happening in the beginning of January. There's a New Year's Day flying and Bobbin. There's another New Year's Day flying at Slape. 6th and 7th of January, there's the Brass Monkey flying at North Coates. That's up on the East Coast, so that's going to be really cold. 7th of January, there's a New Year flying at North Weald. So
There you
First
go.
week of the year.
Very much.
And I've just been reminded of a very good comment. Mike, prepare yourself for this. But Mark Greenfield says, Lee, you're obviously a legend. What's it like to be the second best extra 300 pilot in the UK? Cheers, Greeners.
Cheers, Greeners. So who's the best then? I'd probably go with Gerald Cooper, maybe.
Oh, I was going to say Gerald Cooper. There's another.
Sorry, Greeners, love you.
Hey, Lingy, I've noticed during. Oh,
don't worry about it.
Okay.
Good. Right. On that note, I think, because we're running out of time, it's time to say thank you very much, team. It's been great all year. Thank you very much, Mike, for stepping in at the last moment, expecting to be on here for just a little quick interview, but turned out great presenter. Anytime you want to come back, just give us a shout when you're bored on a Thursday night. I realise this might eclipse the rest of your career, but you've made it as an honorary member of the team. Well done. And,
thank you for having me, guys. And
above all,
Merry Christmas,
thank
everybody.
you to everyone who's watched and everyone who's supported us. Thank you very much. Happy Christmas, safe flying, and we look forward to seeing you in 2024. Oh yeah, I should tell you, next week on the 28th there isn't a flyer live stream, but there will be, if we can get it edited in time, the short flyer review of the year, which won't be live, but it'll be live at the same time on the 28th. So thank you very much for that. I was looking at the video earlier. We spared no money on this. It cost us nothing. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone. Have a good one,
everybody, and
Merry Christmas, all.
Bye.